Time for another edition of What the F Just Happened, where the F does not stand for friend. Lots of big-name players with disappointing performances this weekend. Let's get into it. What's the first one?
Ezekiel Elliott rushed for only 8 yards against the Broncos. What the Fort Worth just happened?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened is the Broncos basically said, you know what? We're going to stack the line. We're going to make the Cowboys beat us with Dak Prescott. And honestly, it worked because they have the kind of personnel in the backfield that'll work like that. I don't think that works all the time. Ultimately, it's Ezekiel Elliott. He's a stud. It's a good offensive line. They ran into Denver. It happens. I'm not worried about Ezekiel Elliott, but if somebody in your league is, please make a lowball offer. He's still a top 3 fantasy running back for the rest of the season. All right, what's next?
Brandon Cooks had a homecoming against the Saints defense and still only had 2 catches for 37 yards. What the Foxborough just happened?
I know, this one was crazy, right? Tom Brady goes absolutely nuts, throws for basically 450 yards, and Brandon Cooks does nothing against his former team, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I think if you watch that game, look, Cooks almost had a touchdown. Frankly, Brady underthrew him. If he'd thrown him in stride, he'd have had a touchdown, and I think the box score looks a little bit different. This is what happens with the Patriots. They've got a lot of weapons. They spread it around. Ultimately, Brandon Cooks is going to be fine, but I think it's time to readjust him. He's no longer the wide receiver 1, maybe you drafted, but still a high wide receiver 2. You're starting him. Don't panic on Brandon Cooks. Better days are ahead as he gets that chemistry with Tom Brady. All right, who's next?
Cam Newton threw for just 228 yards, while Christian McCaffrey only had 10 rushing yards versus Buffalo. What the first-round draft picks just happened?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what happened is this is what you get. I don't think this is much of a fluke. Look, credit to Sean McDermott, who obviously knows Cam Newton at least very, very well, and a lot of the Panthers. But ultimately, I think let's talk with Cam Newton. He's just not running. Get this, through 2 games here, he's 12th in quarterback rushing so far. From 2011 to 2015, Newton was first in quarterback rushing by over 770 yards. So he's just not running, and part of the reason is because of McCaffrey and Jonathan Stewart. The truth of the matter is McCaffrey is more of like a high-end Giovanni Bernard, which is still great, but probably not the guy you drafted. You need to lower expectations for both these guys going forward. This is more legit than not. Who's next?
Kirk Cousins threw for only 179 yards, while Terrell Pryor had just 32 receiving yards against the Rams. You like that? And also, what the Fed just happened?
You snuck it in there. I like that one. Fair enough, crazy voice guy. Look, here's the fact of the matter is Kirk Cousins starts slow. We've seen this before. First 2 weeks of 2016, he was QB 24. Rest of the way, QB 4. First 2 weeks of 2015, Cousins was QB 32. Finished the rest of the season, he was QB 6. As he gets more comfortable and he gets warmed up, so will Terrell Pryor. I think they focus on the run game in the next couple of weeks, but ultimately, Kirk Cousins will finish strong. I have no doubt about it. But next couple of weeks could be a little bit dicey. All right, who's next?
Russell Wilson had the 49ers at home, but still only threw for 198 yards. What the Frazier just happened?
I like that one, actually, Frazier. I get it, Seattle. Hey, honestly, this is what we expect out of Russell Wilson. We knew the offensive line was going to struggle initially, and honestly, he's a slow starter, just like Kirk Cousins. Get this, last 3 years, in September, Russell Wilson, QB 21. Last 3 years, October through January, Russell Wilson, QB 5. Again, September, for whatever reason, the guy just starts slow. But now with the emergence of Chris Carson, they're starting to get a run game. I believe that offensive line will gel. Russell Wilson will be just fine. You may not want to start him this week on the road at Tennessee, but he's going to be just fine. Don't panic on Russell Wilson long term.